Hello, my name is Grace Holt, and I will be presenting The Female Portrayal in a Masculine Game, based on the book No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy. So some background. The characters we will be looking at, Llewellyn and Carla Jean Moss, Llewellyn being the main character who stumbles upon the drug deal gone wrong, decides to steal the money and hope for the best, and Carla Jean Moss, his wife and supplemental character to Llewellyn. Next up we have Sheriff Ed Tom and his wife Loretta Bell. So Sheriff Ed Tom, he is a prevalent character trying to retrieve the money stolen by Llewellyn and as well hunt down Anton Chigurh. And Loretta Bell is a side character helping Sheriff. Next up we have Antoine Chigurh. He is the antagonist. He, throughout the book, is hunting down Llewellyn, trying to reclaim the money, and is in the end leads to the demise of many characters. So life on the plains of Texas, much different than current life today, and that being portrayed in the novel is a very Western ideal and overall genre to the book. It's set in the 1980s, and it has very strong societal gender norms in place, especially for the women, more staying at home, less upfront roles in the book and in the Western genre. And overall, it's a very male-dominated plot. This, again, very normal for a Western genre type of novel. So I took inspiration from the prompt that had a quote from Mary Poles, and the quote was, "McCarthy's writing has always been a manly affair." This I thought was very interesting just because that was something I noticed while reading, was how much there was an influence on the male characters, and the female characters always seemed to be secondary, and they would be there to help, but overall just secondary characters, and that intrigued me a lot. I wanted to understand the female characters on a deeper level and just learn about why they were placed at that secondary role, as well as looking at the sexist undertones. While I was reading, I did notice some, and they were something I wanted to dive deeper into and just understand. So for my topic development, after I decided upon a prompt, I wanted to look more into the female characters that were in the book. I then created my thesis and my topic, and so for the thesis, it was very helpful in creating to have the peer insight. The peers were able to give me feedback, as well as I had some biases I did not realize I first had, and with that insight I was able to change it. And overall, just with the topic development, I kept the idea of wanting to learn more about the female characters and went from there, and just how they're portrayed in writing. Throughout my topic, I have changed ideas many times, but it's still sticking with looking at the female roles and how they are portrayed. So for the research, my main research was the one search through the Sac City Library. I found this very helpful with their filters and the fact that it was so easy to get peer-reviewed articles and whatnot. The keywords and phrases that I found most helpful when researching were gender norms, social standards, female stereotypes, and misogyny in literature. I was able to acquire many different articles and books, and from here I began reading, gathering information and quotes, and setting it all aside. After I had gathered all my information, I was then able to incorporate everything into my writing and go from there with a draft. So for the topic choices that I chose to look at was, first off, the Western style of writing. The Western style of writing overall, very masculine dominated, the classic cowboys, the Wild West. The females are always the supplementary roles, there to influence the males or giving the males something to do or save. So I was curious about that comparison to McCormack's work. Next up, I wanted to look at if the novel would be the same if all the female characters were taken away, how that would change the male characters, their emotions, how the characters are being portrayed by readers. That was all very interesting to me. And then looking at the small details that were given for the female characters, they didn't say a lot of things, but the things that they did say were insightful to the book, as well as to the overall character development for the male characters. I was very curious about how the female characters were portrayed in the film version of No Country for Old Men, and this was very different compared to the writing, just due to being able to see facial expressions and see them interact with one another. It made the female characters much stronger and give them much more of a presence, and I thought that was very interesting between the two. Lastly, I looked at social standards for women, how they were incorporated into the novel and into the society, as well as looking at the sexist undertones and trying to break them apart and understand why they were present in the book. Thank you all for listening.